Thank you so much, Onisha. It is my pleasure welcoming Mr. Zakiul Islam, Sarjil Sarwar, and Raisul Kabir. They will be discussing about PMO, Project or Program Management Office. Before we start our discussion, let me give a quick introduction, or let me introduce you with our panelist. Mr. Zakiul Islam, he is a transformational leader. Currently, he is the managing director of NESCO, Northern Electronic Supply Company Limited. Before joining NESCO, he was in Banglalink. He's actually he works in policy governance strategy. So in Banglalink, he had the management position. Before joining Banglalink, he was head of PMO in Ooredoo Telecom. And this is when I met that transformational leader. It was my privilege to work in his team. Going back to Zaki sir's career journey, before joining Veon, he was assigned for a head of project in Saudi Arabia. And maybe you know that he was first and founding president of MTOB. MTOB is the Association for Mobile Telecommunication Operators in Bangladesh. So Zaki sir completed his graduation from BUET. He completed his master's from Royal Roads University, and he had his management course from INSEAD. And I saw that Sarjil also had his management course from INSEAD. So let me now go back to introduce Sarjil. Sarjil Sarwar, he is a versatile and seasoned ICT executive. Currently, he has worked in USA, Middle East, Africa, and Asia. Currently, he is a group head of technology, program, and performance in Axiata in Kuala Lumpur. This is the head office. And before joining or performing that role, he was EVP of customer experience in Robi Axiata. He was vice president of enterprise PMO. So this is where actually he got his experience, like hands-on experience on performing the role of PMO. He again had good experience of strategy management and then transformational journey. Before joining Robi Axiata, he also was in Quimpro. He was assigned there in Delhi, and he worked in Airtel Uganda and Airtel Bangladesh. Then he completed his BSc from Texas University. Did I say something wrong? University of Texas, yeah. And he also had a management course from INSEAD. Now I'm going to Raisul Kabir. Raisul Kabir is an entrepreneur. So he has almost more than 14 years of journey as entrepreneur. He has completed his graduation from BUET and joined as developer, and he didn't wait there. Just after having a professional journey, that's also a professional journey, but he actually quickly moved to entrepreneurship. He was the co-founder of BPDB, and after that, currently for last 14 years, he is the founder and CEO of BrainStation. So BrainStation is actually working in the software field. They have their clients in Netherlands, Denmark, UK, and US. So without further ado, I have introduced my panelists. Now, what I will do is I will one by one maybe ask questions to my panelists, and you also can ask questions. So whatever questions you have on PMO, Project Management Office or Program Management Office, please do ask questions. We'll be looking forward to your questions. So my first question is for Mr. Zakiul Islam. Oh, Zaki sir, my Zaki sir, yeah. So you were in head of, like you performed the role of head of PMO. So you saw that what is the expectation from PMO, and as a managing director now, your expectation is also there for your project office. So where do you feel that there are some changes? So what role you have when you were the head of PMO, and where you expect something from PMO or your project office? So what are the differences? Is Zaki sir here? Or should I move to?
I think he has been disconnected for some network issues.
Okay. Okay. Okay, then I'll ask that question to Zaki sir when he is available. So my question is to Sarjil. Sarjil, I know you were in PMO and you are in the global group and heading a department, and I'm sure you are interacting and you have interacted with project management or program management office. So what differences, what are the different role of PMOs that you see or you experience? What is your experience being a member of PMO, or when you see PMOs in other areas? Please, Sarjil, over to you.
Thank you for the question, Shamima, and thanks for having me over for this discussion. Just I think to give a perspective, the global PMO perspective is largely based on the industry that we sort of operate in, also the maturity of the company, and what is the primary mandate, that is what is that you need to do, what is the burning desire to sort of address. Some companies initially start off, so they go through a greenfield cycle. As you notice in Bangladesh context, a lot of startups are doing that. So it's more about having a minimum viable product out, have a very flexible and an agile culture. But for a mature company like the likes of telecoms that we operate in, we have a lot of legacy that we have to deal with as well. That is to have a proper governance, proper strategy and planning in place, and the program management office and the PMO has to be sort of a very well synced in, like the orchestra, to deliver all this. So these challenges are there, and I think from a perspective of Bangladesh, a lot of the companies adopt these in terms of having a very structured enterprise program office or transformation office, or for that matter in Western Europe or emerging markets where they have evolved to the next level, where they call it a value management office or a result management office. It's more of a business role than actually just doing simple project management, because they like to see, comparable business results coming out of the program management offices, which are very much linked to the investments, the strategy, alignment, getting the values in early, ability to be acting like a third eye for the management team, mostly the CEO. And in most cases, all these roles are typically reporting directly to the CEO or through perhaps to one of the strong management committee members or the SLTs, because PMO is one of those things that usually brings out the inconvenient truth for everybody out there, that this is not sort of working out, it needs to be addressed. Somebody needs to sort of bring this up. Obviously, you can't do that just saying that, this project is not working or that project is not working. You need to be talking to executives in a more business language orientation, where they understand the impact and the delays and the impact of having these relations. So I think by and large, the entire global landscape is going towards that. It's more value realization and for business sort of ability to sort of address these issues.
Yeah, so true. So when we actually joined PMO, that time we were thinking like maybe our role is only to govern or see whether projects are being run on time or not. But nowadays it's more like strategic role, the strategic execution and transformation. Thank you so much, Sarjil, for your answer. As I can see, Zaki sir, So again, going back to Zakiul sir, yeah, I can understand maybe there were some technical problems. So sir, the question for you was, or I can ask again. So you were head of PMO, and as a managing director, you have some expectations from your project office as well. So what are the difference when you were the head of PMO and like delivering to management, or now when you are the managing director, and how well actually PMO or the project office or the project managers are being able to deliver as per expectation?
Thank you so much for inviting me. Actually, I would like to state that Shamima was my colleague, or I was her colleague. So she has been always very decent and polite for me. With us, we have worked together, and I've been knowing her for a couple of, almost more than 10, 15 years. So we have actually multiple experience in project management and training, conducting training courses. Thank you so much for inviting me. Coming back to your question, actually, end of the day, whether I'm a head of project management or I'm heading the office as an MD or CEO, is deliberation of the project. You need to deliver, whether I am responsible as the head or I am responsible for the organization, we need to deliver the project. And the challenges is, in my capacity, is bigger because we need to support, we need to give decision, and we need to understand where the problem is or where we can extend support. So basically, in head of project management, you are looking, you work as an execution, and definitely we do make the decisions as head of PMO. But then again, we need to highlight the risks, the mitigation plan, then the way forward timeline, what are the milestones, and so on and so forth. And in case of in the management position, we ask, okay, fine, what are the challenges you're facing? And in most of the cases, what happens is that you are in a position to give the decision. So where in head of PMO, you have been looking for decision, maybe you are not getting your boss, or there is a scheduled meeting, or there's a board meeting, or there's a management meeting. In such cases here, if you have the scope and if you have an open door policy, what you do, you simply pick up the phone, you can ask your project director or the project manager, what's happening, do you have any issues? And since I come from a multinational background, corporate background, okay, so what happens is that it's easy for me to understand the challenges the head of PMO used to face. So instead of instead in the position of PMO, I, not being as a government officer, rather from the corporate background, I would like to have open door policy and I facilitate. This is one thing. So expectation and deliberation here is you can understand what are the expectation and what are the deliberations. So from this position, because of the working background, it's much easy to facilitate. Okay, this is one. If I have time, I can add one more thing.
Please, sir.
So second thing that we have been experiencing here actually is that in corporate background, there's a permanent PMO department. Whatever the project is there, they are on the set for facilitating. They have experience, they have the concerned IT or technical or financial project managers, they basically facilitate. And they are being expert on that field. They have tried to facilitate the project manager or the tech CTO or the CMO or CIO, whoever is responsible. Here in the government sector, the scenario is a bit different. So since we have multiple projects, so what we do, we actually assign a project director. The interesting part here is that he is basically heading the PMO, but we in government sector, we don't call it PMO, it's a project director. He is assigned with the financial responsibility as well. Okay. So he is performing the capacity of a CTO or a CIO or a CMO. In our case, there is no, we don't need marketing, so there is no CMO, but if it is a financial project, a launching of IP or whatever, so it is basically, he has the full authority. Okay. And number one, and the volume of project is much bigger. So for example, we are handling 3 projects. One is 1100 plus crore, 1100 crore plus. One is 1050 plus crore. One is 414 crore. So the amount is very big. And the project PD is having some kind of 20-25 years of working experience. Either he's from a technical background or a technical financial background or technical commercial. How do we facilitate it? It's a bit different. So we don't call it PMO, we say project office. Then he is assigned with layers of managers, executive engineers, something like that. And the board is, we have a board. Board calls for a monthly meeting, and then we evaluate, assess. An interesting part is that these are basically either comes from the donor agencies or from the government of Bangladesh. So government would like to take an active role here. So the PD is determined by the ministry. The government has a multi-layer project evaluation committee. We call it PIC, Project Implementation Committee. It is being represented by Minister of Finance, Minister of Planning, IMED, and others. And then there is a PSC, Project Steering Committee, headed by the Secretary of the concerned ministry. Then it goes to planning. They call it Bachai Committee. That means you assess and understand how to do it. And then subject to the source of funding and the volume of funding, it even goes to the Prime Minister level. The original project is either approved by the Purchase Committee headed by the Finance Minister, or even it goes to the Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister. So what I'm trying to say is that since the funding is much bigger, volume is much bigger, the level of steering, level of monitoring, although not in that capacity the PMO handles, is much bigger since they have financial responsibility. What I'm missing here is that if we have this formal project management kind of trainings, then risk assessment, feasibility studies, mitigation plan, and interdependence, it could have been identified in much better manner and could have been approached in much professional manner.
Right.
Please go ahead. Okay.
So that also started, I think, from Ministry of Planning and other ministries. They have started providing training. I'm sure we will start seeing the benefits of those trainings.
I would just like to one more add here is that Minister of Power is very pragmatic here, and they have formed a company so that company, the board can decide. So the level of bureaucracy is minimized here. So it's basically me and my board, which decides on the entire project. And then obviously we go to planning. So rest of the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of other ministries, they don't get involved in this process. So process has been minimized.
Simplified. No transportation or agility is there.
Exactly.
That's great to know.
Right.
That's great to know. So my next question is to Raisul. Raisul, I missed a few points in the introduction. He is certified project management professional. He is certified Scrum Master, product owner. So being a certified, as you are CEO, how actually do you think that PMO guide or the standard actually fits into the governance framework? So when you see that, as you have already got the certification, you know about the standard. So when you already discussed that you are in process of developing PMO or establishing PMO in your organization. So how actually PMO guide or the standard actually helps here in setting up PMO? Raisul.
Yeah. So since we are an outsourcing company at the beginning, so what happened is most of our projects were like monthly contract or time and material basis. So previously we did not need a lot of project management professionals, because we did not need a lot. We were not facing a lot of challenges. But over the time, we started doing fixed price projects as well, both globally and locally. Currently, large scale fixed price projects are going on, like there is a project from Germany with $1.2 million, stuff like that. So that kind of projects actually requires a lot of project management effort, and then we need to have processes and policies to ensure that things go according to plan and stuff like that. So then we were facing a lot of challenges in other fixed price projects as well, that suppose sometimes projects would go over budget, sometimes we are not looking after stuffs that we need to look after. So then we needed to create a comprehensive checklist. So now we have created a comprehensive checklist. I mean, at least we have started doing a comprehensive checklist. And when we started doing that, then I found that all the stuffs that I have studied in PMBOK was like extremely helpful to pick all the points, that we don't miss any point. So, although I started the company in 2006, I was actually during my student life, I was doing software development as well, and delivering software to local and global companies as freelancer, as part-time developer, stuff like that. So, I mean, projects are nothing new. So I have learned a lot of stuff, but these learnings are kind of intuitive. I do not know how to create a proper checklist to ensure that the ideas, the issues that I have faced, I can deliver to my people, right? So there actually PMBOK guide was like extremely helpful. I remember when I started at first reading the PMP. I remember I was reading the head first PMP book at first, and I was getting the information like water in sand. I mean, I was like so happy that my problems are being solved by each of the knowledge that I am getting. That I would face some problem, and then in when I was doing PMP training under you, Shamima, I was like amazed to see how it was solving all my problems. So then when I started working on the for our organization, because for our organization, since we are a software development company, we are mainly selling time. We do not sell anything else other than time, right? I mean,
Yeah.
for other projects there is other costs involved, but for our software company, we are only selling time. So then the time is actually the cost. So some components we could connect and reduce some components, some checklist items, but when I was looking at all these, especially for some of the areas, then I would get confused, and I would bring up the ITTO, especially for the change management process. So there I see that there is lots of value in it when I try to actually do a proper project management, and when I try to do a proper PMO. Another stuff that is like extremely helpful is that when I am talking with a client, when I am solving a problem, I see that my certification actually helps me a lot with all the tools that I need to address the situation, how the standards should be. Had it been that I have not done PMP, I would not have known that. So that is why I see that this PMBOK is like extremely helpful. That said, I see that as you have already shared, that I am certified Scrum Master as well, and certified Scrum product owner as well. So there I was seeing that and currently we are implementing CMMI at our organization. So while doing all these things, that I have to stay agile, I have to be very nimble. Our processes cannot be so heavy that our clients run away from us, right? That it has to be very agile and nimble, and at the same time the organization should not fall into problems. So how do we design that? So when we were designing that, I found that one area might have gotten a little bit missed, or maybe it is there. In the PMI chapter, maybe it is there, the information is there, I have missed it, that the stage gate approach, that for a software development project or many other project for that matter, what happens is that Agile would or Scrum would only focus on the Scrum process, right? I mean,
Right.
the development process. But for PMP, it is extremely important that there is a project
Right.
charter and planning phase. But if we do a
Actually,
comprehensive planning phase, then what happens is, yeah,
right. So
sorry,
if I may add, so maybe when I can remember
yeah,
you had your PMP certification during very early like early days, and
yes,
that time maybe PMBOK third or fourth edition was running. So maybe
yeah,
fourth or fifth,
yes, yes,
but
yeah,
in PMBOK sixth. Uh,
fourth probably, yeah,
predictive project,
yeah.
predictive or
The
waterfall
stage gate
project
already.
management, and yeah, agile handbook is also there in
Okay,
PMO guide, because
has
PMI has
already,
also
yeah,
changed.
yeah,
And maybe you know that PMI has recently started disciplined agile certification as well. So in the disciplined agile
right, right,
body of knowledge, all those Kanban,
yeah,
Scrum, and all what we apply for
yeah.
those
I mean,
projects where we cannot predict our outcome, those has been yeah, incorporated. So the we are actually going into
yes, yes, exactly.
different kinds of project, and PMBOKs are like PMI also is changing the guide body of knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that part. I think I mean, when I was doing PMP, then Agile already was there, so there was no
Yeah.
conflict between Agile and PMP. But what I found at later stage, that we need to have a little bit of stage gate approach, that at the beginning of project, I mean, PMP
Yeah.
does not define, or maybe I am wrong, but PMP does not define where we should, I mean, what is the sequence of stuffs, right? Like, of course, there is at first project charter, but then can I run planning phase along with development, along with monitoring and control, right?
So you are
Execution,
talking about,
monitoring and
yeah,
control, of course.
maybe you are
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
from the
So
business
there,
like software development perspective. So that
yes,
has
yes,
already
yes.
been incorporated. So if you allow me, then
Right.
I would like to actually go or ask questions
Yeah, please.
to other
Yeah,
yeah,
please.
other speakers as
Yes,
well.
yes, please, please. Yeah.
I can see that one questions came regarding PMO. Kamal already answered that, but maybe I will ask that. Maybe that question was for Sarjil or Zaki sir, but we can discuss that, right? So my next question is to Zaki sir. Do you think PMO fails sometimes, because you were in PMO? Do you think that do you think PMO fails sometimes, and how do you think that PMO can overcome from failing?
Thank you for asking. Actually, I'm being a bit biased. PMO never fails. You know why? Because it's not in the capacity, the way PMO works. It is their responsibility to interact with the CTO, CIO, CMO, somebody else, that they are performing or not, or they are delivering or not.
I'm not hearing right now.
Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, now I can hear you.
So
Yeah.
as I said, PMO never fails. You know why? In our case, it's different, but in all the corporate and multinational background, PMO is responsible for monitoring, supervision, vision, and facilitation. So they
True.
basically work with the head of the CXOs and others. So it is
True.
the responsibility of the CXO to perform the job. What PMO is doing is they are facilitating. They are identifying the risk. They are
True.
highlighting the mitigation process. They are highlighting how to take the way forward, what are the milestones, and all these things. So
True.
in that perspective, with the authority and responsibility they have, they're
True.
very nicely, very well mannered. They're performing their job. In
True.
most of the cases, if the CTO is on top of PMO and if the PMO is not empowered, if you remember in the Worried what we saw, PMO was reporting to the board executive committee, not even to the board, the top
Not
management in
even to
Abu Dhabi.
CEO of Bangladesh.
Top management in Abu Dhabi, as a
Yeah.
matter of fact. So what
True.
happened is that, so they had been empowered. So they were actually in a position to exercise the responsibility they had. I didn't use the word power, They had the responsibility to exercise. In any case where there was some kind of lagging, some bottleneck, some issues, when they failed to resolve with the CTO, CIO, or CMO, they used to take it with the is a board executive committee. So that's where actually PMO functions. The most important thing actually is important here is the networking. As I understand, some of your either Sarjil or is actually possibly is an NCR alumni. I think somebody I saw is
yes, he is.
Basically I had been to INSEAD as well. They have taught us very important thing is that networking.
Yeah.
If you have the networking with this board member, with BEC or the CTO or down the level, the person working in the field, then you would be able to understand where is the problem. Identify a problem, talk to the person concerned, or escalate to the next level or to the next level so that matter can be resolved. So that's how I say is a very important that whether have the right communication, right networking, identifying the milestone and identifying the bottleneck, and then stating what is the way forward and mitigation plan. Thank you.
True. Thank you, sir. Yeah, so having said that, I would now ask the almost same question to Sarjil because we were discussing the same thing. Sometimes we feel see or hear that while we are in PMO, sometimes we hear from CXO level, like why PMO even exists, like what they are doing, right? So what is your take on that, Sarjil? Please share.
I will get back to you on this, why PMO exists after Sarjil. Thank you.
I mean, it's a very good question. And I think it's one of those cases that it's never the one perspective. Every company, every management or every board has their own views on it. But I agree with partly what Zakiul said. It's a higher authority body that sort of facilitates these transformations and these change initiatives. But at the end of the day, the accountability is also a bit of a dubious task, right? You can't put your gun on somebody else's shoulder and say that you need to deliver, and I'm just going to wait and watch. That to an extent works depending on the buy-in that you have from the CEO or the board. But in context of Bangladesh and the culture and the maturity of the company, you really have to have your skin in the game. Otherwise, everybody's going to question what's your role. I mean, that challenge is always there. And I think that's a good challenge, right? Because it sort of always gives you the perspective of reflecting back. Why do we need to be there? What value addition are we doing? And are we there only up until the project? Or even after the project delivery, is the business case of this, let's say if it's a power plant or 4G, 3G, or even launching a new website, is it delivering the actual value outcome of the project? And sort of helping it to see through the baby steps and seeing that the organization delivers and gets the return on investment. See, at the end of the day, whoever is gonna, for project management professionals, we obviously want to talk in our technical terms, charter, deliverable, escalations, risk management. But at the end of the day, for a normal CEO or any management committee member, what they understand is business metrics. So we need to be able to sort of connect with them. And I fully agree with Zaki Bhai. A lot of it really depends on your personal relationship building. If you're able to sort of get these kind of things out of their way through informal channels, sort of ease up the tension between conflicting stakeholders within the company, you can get through a lot done than just sending an escalation email. I mean, escalation emails does help only when you have no results. I think I've sorted more issues over coffee break than I've done over emails, that I can tell you. And I think it works and it has a lasting impact. So, I mean, that's my take on it. And again, like I said, there is no one size fits all approach, but we have two kinds of conundrums, right? We have the startup companies in Bangladesh and we have the matured ones. So both of them have their own fair share of challenges and the way go about resolving this. So it's not a one size fits all model, and it's more to do with the culture of the company and how to go about delivering this.
True. I was while I was in PMO, Munir Farooqi used to say PMO is my third eye. I can see through their eyes. Zaki sir, as you said, over to you.
I just would like to add here, three examples. When I was president, top, we had to go with this SIM registration process. The first one, number one.
Biometric,
No, not before, but even not with the re-registration, the first re-registration process. Then we had to do this 2G renewal. Then we had to do this 3G allocation. Then we had to do this financial policy. And then finally the SIM tax issue. So what I'm trying to say is that all the major challenges and the transformation that happened within the telecom industry between 2007 to 2014, we are part of that history. And between 9 to 11, actually, as a matter of until 12, when Mahbub Chaudhry took over, before that, I was responsible. So what I used to do, exactly the way you said, Sergeant, I used to pick the phone. Thanks to actually the smartphone, we had this conference call. I used to call Mr. Ashraf from Warid, Mahmoud from later Mahmoud initially Rahim Shamsi, and even before that, Khaled Bhai. And then Mahfouz from CTSL, Robbie, that time it was Mr. Fazlur Rahman, later Shahid came, then at some point Mr. Mahmoud was there, Mahmoud Bhai, the newscaster. So we used to discuss. So this is the problem, what is the way forward, how to draft the letter, where to take it to the finance minister, how to take it with an NVS chairman, and so on and so forth. Although not in the role of PMO, because we were CXO as a government relation or corporate affairs, but end of the day, it was basically the same role. So this is one thing that we have learned, this communication, and why CEO used to love the way Shamima said, Muni Faruqi, your responsibility is to highlight the challenges, the risks, the problem that if the CTO might be busy in execution, he might not have seen the vendor management issue with Nokia.
Maker checker has to be different at the same time.
So your role is to highlight, fine. That's what I am seeing, that there might be a problem coming ahead. There can be issue with the regulators. There can be issue with the vendor. There can be issue with the internal stakeholders. So stakeholders management. That's why I said PMO never fails. But then again, as Sarjil said, it's very important.
I love that statement.
Basically, that's how you need to integrate all the stakeholders.
Yeah.
That's it.
So thank you so much, sir. I can see 2 more questions came. So if we, audience, if you want to see the answer that has been given by Kamal, thank you, Kamal. You can see in the question answer session. So I will ask those rest of the questions. One question is to Zaki sir specifically. So I will go to Sarjil first with Priyo Patra's question. PMO, Sarjil. Okay. PMO is usually viewed as an auditing governing body. How CSN we make it more collaborative?
Well, I mean, like I said, there is no one-size-fits-all model. PMOs are there to actually help and collaborate and get things done. I mean, that's how the mindset I see. The moment you come in from a third-party audit perspective, it doesn't really help you gain a lot of traction, right? People see you as an outsider in, trying to look around their business and ask you what's the value that they're doing. I mean, I always get this question asked, that what's your incremental value just by looking at it? So I think PMOs by and large are just not the audit perspective, but also the bottleneck breaker. And like Shamima and Zakiul Bhai said, it's the third eye, or it's early escalation mode, that what's coming your way and how you can sort of tackle it. Because the moment you go it just from an auditing perspective, that is actually perfectly fine. But for that to happen, you really need to have your project management within the company at a very matured level. When do you do audit? When there is a defined process, there is a governance, there is a financial reporting, there is a status reporting, there is a steering committee. And if somebody is not following that or bypassing it, or for that matter, not being transparent enough with the right information, we can sort of, say that, we can do that. But I think the fundamental step is to act more of a business partner to the functions and to let them see what is the incremental value that you bring into the table, rather than just, commenting and just making a more very generic subjective statement. At the end of the day, it's always a very good learning. How you go about doing it. It's more to do with approaching the stakeholders, be it a function, let's say, in most cases, IT projects and technology projects, or even finance projects, or GTM projects are reviewed by PMOs. The idea is that what is it that I can do to make your process faster, make your issues better, or even if you're having issue with supply chain or through the CFO, getting a business case approval. Maybe I can talk to him and speak in a language to get it done. So I think that the idea should be is that we're there to help, and for us to help you pop up and table the issues and the problems. So it's a very transparent valuation process. Otherwise, that trust never really happens. And I can tell you that the moment we approach it from a very policing bit, there was early in the days, people sort of label us, you're the RAB of the company, rapid action. Why? Because you can when they're not working out. Right? But gradually we were able to shrug off those styles, becoming a placeholder in the committee where without even debate, they just look at it saying that you are the single source of truth. You tell me what's happening. How many projects happen? What is the value that you're happening? What is the problems? And be it from a very neutral perspective. So the neutrality really does help at that point. So I hope I was able to sort of give a bit of context to that question.
Yeah. So if I may add, so you were saying that not only the governing role that PMO should have, at the same time, we know that PMO can have a supporting role as well. We provide training, we provide all those like supporting that a PMO, that a project manager might have. So this and like linking projects with strategy, this is where actually PMO adds value.
Well, I mean, the thing is, by definition standard, PMO is a facilitator, common set of guidelines, common language, common approval process. But those are the statutory nature of a PMO. But the moment you want to go and sell it to a new CEO or a new management committee, that what value do I bring in other than administrative? I think collaboration is key. The trust is key and the transparency. They need to see you more of a, you need to be more of a advisor or a third eye to the CXOs rather than just saying, oh, ita hoy na, ita hoy na. It doesn't work like that. So that trust takes a while to come in.
Okay. So before as we have other questions as well, specifically one to Zaki sir and another from to maybe Sarjil. So before I go to those questions, I will ask Raisul the next question. Raisul, so if you have a PMO in your organization, we know that soon you are going to have PMO in your organization. So what kind of PMO, like supporting, what kind of PMO you are thinking of?
Right. So in fact, this is more of learning than actually sharing session for me, because I am just taking note from Zakiul sir and Sarjil bhai that how they have done their PMO, because I have been eyeing to start our PMO for quite long but have not yet been able to do that. So coming back to the question that what I want to do, in fact, yes, Sarjil bhai and Zakiul sir already has answered those things, that to ensure that the processes are maintained, governing it, and as well as supporting the role. Very beautifully mentioned that third eye. Now the challenge is, how do I do that? And how do I put it in the organizational design, whether it would be, because I mean, being a 350 people company, the organization is now being divided into a couple of business units, where the project managers are divided in all those business units. So probably across team PMO would work well, where where there is all the project managers are reporting to the PMO, and the PMO is designing the processes, updating the processes on the challenges that all the project managers are facing, updating the checklist items, and when a new challenge is faced, then like Sarjil bhai has already mentioned, that supporting that, collaborating on that, and updating the process, training on that particular problem, or on the particular problem that suppose couple of project managers are facing, that how to address this problem. Suppose some project manager has been able to solve the problems. So the guidance is actually there in the PMBOK. The PMO, what I imagine is would be the central body of knowledge for the entire organization, which should actually guide the organization in the right direction. So yeah, that is how I see it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Raisul. Question from Redwanul Islam to Zaki sir. Will you share strategies for contingency planning in big budget projects from your experience?
Okay. This is what actually I was going to tell two things. One is my local experience from telecom. I used to work for Philips as well, the Dutch company. So I was kind of back in 1998, I had the designation of a sales engineer, then a sales manager. And during that period, nobody used to understand how can an engineer can get the job as sales, or how they can do the sales. They're into technical business. And honestly speaking, that time we had done the sound system of Sheraton, the Sunset of Shonaga Hotel, the National Assembly audio conference system, the Prime Minister Office, the conference system, and many other PABX system and VHF projects. So that's where the concept is started actually. So project management, actually, maybe it has been formalized in 2020, but I am talking about in 88, 89, when used to do the same thing. It's how it started. First of all, either you are in marketing or you are in a company like NESCO or wherever in Banglalink or Axiata, we need to understand there would be some visionaries, for example, who needs to understand, identify what exactly we need to do. Next step. For example, what I'm trying to do in NESCO is that we would like to include a smart city. How? Basically, we are doing a smart meter project, so signaling is coming through power line. So if power line signaling can be added as PLC, then we can add that broadband as BPL. If broadband can be added, all this 3 crore subscribers will have the access to information, A2I. So if this can be blended, we can have an entity and license. We'll not go into retail market, but we can provide internet connectivity, mass education, smart payment, whatever you name it, through power system. What somehow or other, I don't want to mention some of the companies doing the optical fiber business did not or could not do. We, with the standard introduction of a smart city and this signaling connectivity, there are some engineers, I believe, those who understand the E1 signaling. This E1 signaling, 30 voice channel, 2 channels. From that perspective, actually, we can add signaling in the power line. What I'm trying to say is that somebody will be working as a visionary, that I need to see the vision where I need to go. Then what we do a feasibility studies, whether this vision is really translatable to in a business, whether it's a viable business. If it's viable, then we do a detailed project plan. We call it DPP, technical, commercial, financial aspect, return on investment, ROI, and so on and so forth, NPV, all these things. When this is done, we take it to the board. Logically, whenever we take something, in consult with the board, it is agreed, we go to our ministry, they approve, then we go to the finance ministry, we go to the planning ministry, we get the approval and so on and so forth. So this is the first phase. Second phase is that what you call is that we engage project director. They will have the financial authority. Here, the difference between PMO and the government level is that they have the financial authority, as I mentioned initially. So that's where actually we really need to interact. The MD or the CEO of the company, they need to actually interact with the project director in a very cohesive manner. I don't say on a daily basis, but okay, fine. What are the problems? Have you done the tenders? Have you done the supply of the materials? Have you done the installation? Have you connected the power? Have you done the generation, whatever the project is? So that's how actually on a weekly, monthly monitoring meeting, it comes actually. So this is where actually project management role plays a very important role. One more experience I would like to share here is that I used to work for an American company, Scientific Atlanta. And basically their national sales organization was in Saudi Arabia, was responsible for satellite communication. Back in 1998, 2000, there was no mobile connectivity. And land phone connection between Jeddah to Riyadh, this 1100 kilometers was not practically possible. So they introduced C-band satellite communication with Arabsat, so we could do this thing. So there was somebody actually who did design this thing. I used to work as a project manager. My responsibility was to implement the project. So we had 3-stage operation. One is site survey. Second is installation, testing, commissioning with RFSET. And third one is interact with Ericsson, enabling the telecommunication part. So it was a kind of 2 years project. What I'm trying to say is that, again, this project management responsibility came up. So we had to deliver, there was a timeline, total 25 earth stations. We had to deliver in two years' time. So you understand, almost every week we had to travel or fly to a different city in Saudi Arabia. And there are two projects. One is what to Saudi Land Force, one was what to Saudi Telecom. And the interesting part was that why we became important there is the Americans were expensive, because bringing them from US and was very expensive. And Saudi Arabia could not trust the people around GCC countries, Egypt, Lebanon, and others. There were confidentiality issues. So countries, people from engineers from Asia, on confidentiality issue, on actually per hour basis rate issue, we were more acceptable. So what I'm trying to say is that, so system engineering in project management at some point is very important. Financial understanding also in project management is very important. So who will be heading the PMO? He will be acting as a mini CEO. He has to understand the financial part, the technical part, the commercial part, the timeline management, but almost everything. And on top of everything, as we have been talking, me, Sarjan, and yourself, networking is very important. You have to approach, as I said, as we said, or you said, you are a third eye. You do not come up with a complaint. You come up with a rather, as I say always to my people, don't tell me the problem. Give me a resolution. Give a solution. Maybe that might not be acceptable, but we side by side with a problem, come with a solution so that we can assess what is the solution. Maybe we can have alternatives. So maybe we can have brainstorming session to understand the problem and then find a solution. Did I answer, or it was too elaborate?
Yeah. No, sir. It's fine. You could answer. I understood. Thank you so much. So I can see another question from Priya Patra. Good discussion here. I have one question. How do you measure the value added by PMO? So I would ask that question to Sarjil.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, it's a question that we every year we get to sort of debate on, that what is the incremental value added. And I think it's a very interesting one at the end of the day, right? I mean, from my perspective, from where I've worked with, let's say, all the telecoms and the other companies that had the privilege to sort of sync up with, I think at the end of the day, strategic project management or project management and PMO is more to do with, the strategy development and alignment and how these are done and executed. So we are actually, from Robi perspective or Axiata perspective, we are part and parcel of the strategic development process as well, because you can only develop a strategy based on the competencies you have and also within the environmental surroundings, the timeliness, and then the limitations you have. So I think one is that to have a realistic plan in place, not on the 30th of March, but 1st of Jan of the year, you have a strategy for 2021 ready with a KPI, and you start monitoring and tracking and putting the stakeholders up for reporting. So one is that whatever the business plan is and what are the top 10 projects that you're doing to achieve that business plan, that's number one thing for us. And whether it's not a direct KPI for PMOs, I think it is a must to see that your North Star is aligned with the rest of the organization. The second part is obviously the BAU nature of it. Are you doing your project documentation, project ideation, project closure? And at the end of the project closure, we also do something called business assurance to ensure that after the program outcomes are measured, that some results were supposed to deliver within 1 year, some were within 6 months. Are they on track, or do they need to sort of get any help to get this thing running? So not just before the project initiation, but even after the project completion, there has to be a thorough checkup to see that you just didn't close the project and hand it over to business with a half-baked CRM or a half-baked billing solution. It has to deliver what it's supposed to deliver. And with these days, transparency, everybody is number-oriented, like Zakiul Bhai said. You cannot dodge the fact that, our project shesh, I'm out of the equation. No, your skin is in the game. You have to sort of be responsible and take accountable in terms of what went wrong and how can you sort of mitigate this gap. So that's the second part. The third and obvious part, like we've all stated time and again, is the early escalations, early reporting, the facilitation when there is a conflict. And I tell you, when there is a conflict, there's a lot of conflict, even at a senior level. So that's where the the relationship building comes in. You take out people, you discuss, try to diffuse the tension, try to find a common ground. And I tell you, it's not an easy one, right? Because there are too many egos involved, and this ego issue is there across all organizations. So you really need to be a very good listener, sort of address all these issues out. So one thing is, like I said, hard number, project deliverable. The other is strategy development and execution and project status. And the final one is, what is that you're bringing into the table in terms of resoluting these conflicts and identifying patterns. You need to sort of also guide your management committee that something is not right, or one of your leads are not, able to deliver. You see that to be a problem in the down the line. So these are by and large some of the early indicators or KPIs that can be measured. For advanced companies, there is actually a very staggered list of KPIs available, even in terms of maturity and in terms of what is the 3-year aspiration is and how you can go about doing it. So I think to start off, these 3 are fairly good.
Okay, thank you, Sarjil. So I hope that gave a very good answer to the question. So the next question is from Sivaram Atmakuri. I hope I pronounced it rightly. So the question is, with the increased adoption of Agile framework, works, what is role of, I think the question is, as the Agile is being adopted by different organizations, so what could be the role of PMO? So that question at first I will ask to Raisul, at the same time maybe Sarjil, as Agile has been adopted by Robi, Axiata. So maybe you can also add there. If Zaki sir wants to add, so that you are also invited. So Raisul, do you want to discuss like how PMO?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So so what we have done, like I was sharing, that we have actually created processes and checklists for our project managers to maintain the project. And what I see is many people actually confuse that Agile conflicts with the PMP process and and CMMI process, but actually three different areas. Like PMP deals with only the project, and PMO deals with the entire organization, and Agile deals with only the development phase, or only within phase of a project management process. So what I see is there is absolutely no conflict, or rather collaborations. So if I share about our experience, so what we have done is in the stage gate process, at first, of course, there is the project initiation, when the project charter and everything done, and then the project planning. So in the project planning, there are like kind of 2 parts. One is the project planning on the high level, the release planning. So here is the release planning, which is of course the Agile term, that you are defining all the user stories, the epics, and writing the titles. So what I see is, what I have written in our checklist is that the WBS numbers should be there, that all the epics should have WBS number, and all the epics should have a high level estimation, and the estimation should be at epic level, that it has to be there. So in this planning process, not a detailed plan, not a to the farthest detail, because the details would actually change, the project would actually change, but we need to ensure that the project is within the time and within the budget. Now, how do you ensure that when you don't have a detailed SRS? So what I understand, that and also of course there is no other alternative to Agile, because nowadays you need to deliver the project really fast. You cannot have that you do lot of documentation for really long time. So how do you do that? You define all the users, all the epics, and the WBS titles has to be done, and the WBS has to be like 100%, that the WBS is exhaustive. The WBS details are not exhaustive. So then the development and the planning phase again starts, but this is without completing this stage, we don't start the development phase. And then when the development phase starts, then in the development phase, there are all the three phases of project management processes. They are the planning, the execution, and monitoring control. All the three phases are running during the third stage of the stage gate process, that you are doing the detailed planning, you are doing the planning for the next sprint while executing on the current sprint, stuff like that. So what I see is for organization like us, where agile is a requirement, you cannot actually go without agile. And also you cannot actually lose the project, you cannot lose a lot of money, because you have started doing agile from the day one. So then actually the scrum and the agile process comes together, like in the monitoring and control, and in the development, like in the execution phase, we have requirement checklist, that there has to be a scrum, there has to be sprint, there has to be burn down chart. The burn down chart should have all the user stories, estimation. The developers are not held accountable and responsible for meeting the estimation. The estimation is a kind of a direction, not necessarily that people would be hold liable for it, but as the project manager, we are responsible and liable to add proper buffer and plan the future, that how my developers are doing the estimation, whether they are exceeding the estimation and stuff like that. So that is how I see that things come together. And the PMO actually is there to ensure that the organization process, the organization process that the organization has learned is instilled in all the project managers. So that is how I see the marriage between the agile and the PMP process and the PMO. That is my understanding.
Yeah, so PMP processes has both the predictive life cycle, which is waterfall. At the same time, we do apply for agile for those projects where we have a lack of or less visibility on what kind of outcome that we are going to have. That happens in a digital kind of like software development project or application development project. So that can happen, like PMO can play a role in both of the cases, whether it is predictive or agile. That's what you wanted to say, I'm sure. So
Yes.
thank you, Rajshahi, for your answer. Sarjil,
Yep.
we before I go back to Sarjil, we have 4 minutes to have this panel discussion. But to clarify to our audience, maybe you are seeing that there were some differences between our plan schedule and what we are going on right now. So previously, our plan, as per plan, Sonia Bashir Kobir was supposed to be here and discussing about entrepreneurship, but she got sick at the very last moment, just 1 hour before our symposium started for today. So maybe you also couldn't notice, but and at the same time, we hope that you enjoyed the panel discussion. So this is actually the contingency plan for the symposium team. So we actually had a bit longer discussion, but I'm sure you liked the discussion. And maybe if Sonia Bashir Kobir is a little better, she will join anytime if possible, but we are not giving stress to her. So yeah, Sarjil.
Yeah, I have a somewhat different view on that. I mean, having seen this transition in, and I can tell you that the traditional project management methodology, sprints to PMP and agile methodologies are in a deadlock. They're not the same thing, right? They are meant for different things. And to give a perspective to everybody from my experience, I don't count them in one bucket. Yes, PMOs can have different methodologies in place. Agile at its best, it's not just for software. We use it, I mean, at least in my team, the last team that I had was I was heading the customer care, and I had about 165 people in my team reporting all
It's
over
about
Bangladesh.
visibility of outcome, actually. It's
Well,
about
yeah, I mean,
visibility.
you can use it for
When
every
we can
project.
predict,
You can
when we
use
can
it for every
predict the
project.
outcome, yeah.
So the idea
Yeah.
is very simple. I want quantifiable, small, incremental changes on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis. If
Sure.
whatever things that I need to do, I'll put it in my product backlog and deliver in sprint backlogs. So the idea was to inculcate this thought process of agility within all the teams, not just IT, not just development. Otherwise, typically you ask any company, oh, I do agile, but only for software development. So I think that's not a right approach. It should be across the board. Even if it's an HR project, you can do it in small iterative steps. The last thing that any management team wants to do is get a surprise after 4 months of in a project saying, I did not get what I wanted, or I got something which is not meant for me. So agile methodology, whether you're using Scrum, whether you're using less or a scale agile framework, or using extreme programming,
Disciplined agile, yeah.
or even using as basic as Kanban, these are methodologies. So the problem with us, and in general in Bangladesh, we get bogged down with technology and the framework. We have to do this. PMP ko later kortei hobe, Prince2 ko later kortei hobe. I don't think that's the case. You need to sort of see how it fits from an organizational perspective. I never thought that I would have a team which had 16 agile squads operating throughout Bangladesh. And these are people not sitting in the HQ. These are people sitting in remote places, and they were given cross-functional projects and challenges, and they would update every 2 weeks. Even they thought they couldn't deliver. And at the end of the day, they are delivering. So we did not just limit it to technical projects only. These were small business projects like, sales coming down on postpaid, increase KPI for compliance, increase quality assurance KPIs, increase the footfall, increase app registrations, and things like that. So at the end of the day, methodologies are meant to make your life easier, but they're not meant to be at a burden that you have to do this. And agile is a wonderful way of doing it. It should be flexible. You start with the bare minimum thing. It's all about addressing business concerns, and business wants to see early, and you don't want to wait till the last moment. And it depends on the maturity of the organization and also the mindset of the management that what is it that they want to get out of it. So I think by and large, we don't want to marginalize saying agile is only for XYZ projects. Agility can be embraced or has to be embraced by everybody within the organization. If you talk about all the startups that you see in the global scale or even Bangladesh.
Sarjil, to add to that, maybe you already know that all those concepts, Kanban and visual board dashboards, and all those concepts came from Toyota Production System.
Right.
And those were for operations management. With us actually how we can take up the idea and apply in projects or operations. It's us who can actually play.
And I think you and I share a common experience with this. So I was fortunate enough to go on a good 3-week training workshop in Japan, and Shamima was there in one of the earlier sessions where we followed the Japanese Kaizen way of doing things, and small, iterative, and a visual Kanban board. And this is something not new. Agile is just been a Western way of doing the Kanban, right? And the more and more I do it, and the more I realize that these are very old principles bundled up with new perspectives. And it's with this whole buzzwords, eta kore felchi, but the fundamental principle largely remains same. So yeah, I think agile can be used across the board, not just for selective projects.
Thank you, Sarjil. Very good discussion going on, but maybe though we had a limited time, we expanded our time. Then also now I'm feeling that I wish we had more time to discuss. So we will end with one or two questions. Maybe we can have quick answers. Next question, Parveen. No, before that, Mohammed, one question is specifically to Zaki sir and Sarjil. Another question is open. How do I improve my PMO team? This is from Mohammed Enamul Haq. So can a quick one-line answer from Zaki sir, Sarjil, and as Raisul don't have a PMO yet, I will not ask him this question.
I'll try to finish it in the short span. One line. Okay. The point is that we all have some kind of PMO in our mind. Okay, so I need to finish the project online, on time, using technology if available. If not, by through persuasion, follow-up, meetings, phone calls, and things like that. Just one simple example. We have covered actually 95% of the population with electricity. And we are supposed to cover 100% in 2021. Since we are celebrating 2020 as Mujib Shatabarsha, we decided to give a surprise to the Honorable Prime Minister. So we decided, fine, we want to do it by 2020. So agility is the prashna. Maybe it's a software, maybe it's a tool, but what we wanted to do is that we called for a meeting, whether government is giving the fund or the company itself is funding, we need to get it done. So 6 months earlier, we decided we need to get it done. Wherever it was possible, we connected electricity. If not, we can bring the solar system. If not, we have introduced mitigate. What I'm trying to say, end of the day, we were very flexible in adapting technology, providing fund, whatever it is. We wanted to complete 100% electrification end of the December, and we are doing it. That's and what PMO actually also, the spirit. That's what should the spirit. You find out a way, recommend solutions, find alternative sourcing, make networking, sit down, discuss, get the job done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Sarjil?
Well, I think the perspective about the improvement. Sit with all your business stakeholders, identify and ask them, what are your 3 big problems that I can solve as PMO? Talk to your CHRO, talk to your CFO, talk to your CTO. They will give you conflicting and their own pain points. Address them using PMO, not just as a tool, but as a governing body, as a relationship building, and a de-escalation method. And you will get a lot. I mean, they will tell you what needs to be done. You don't need to come and scratch your head and come up ways. It's just that have that good relationship and understand their pain points. Then you have you'll have supporters all
across. One last comment.
Yes.
They'll start with a discussion. Actually, instead of you tell something, you better ask a question.
Right.
Exactly. Let's ask a question. Then you start getting information and you can give a decision. Thank you.
One last question from Parvina Froza.
Yeah. I saw that. I think I saw that. It's about strategy. Yeah. I'll just take a quick one on that. I think key here is that strategy formulation is also a conflict. I think Zakiul Bhai can well tell you guys that it's not easy. Everybody will try to get their own budget. Everybody will try to say company the role that PMO plays, you need to sort of table all the thought process in the table and then see what are the overlaps and advise that these are the areas that we have the capability to pull off. We cannot go on a very ambitious journey and you don't have the mindset or the budget or the technical capabilities to do it. So like I said, there is no silver bullet solution. That also brings down to collaboration and discussion and understanding what is their pain points. Again, ask them, don't be prescriptive. They will tell you what needs to be done and you find a way to address it. And the solution lies in these conversations.
With that, maybe the last note from Zaki sir, maybe on the question on strategy perspective, how PMO can have a conflict resolution with subject matter expert.
Conflict resolution, it's very simple. It's very simple. You need to talk or you need to listen. Rather, first you need to listen, then you need to talk. As we have been discussing, all 3 of us, be a good listener first, bring all the stakeholders across the table. If not possible, go and talk to them individually. If you're what kind of manager, head of the PMO or their CXO, walk into their chamber, find a suitable time, talk to them, note down the thought process, talk to the other CXOs and other stakeholders, sit down, then seek support from the highest level, and then come with a solution. So that's how the strategy works. Interactive solution. There is no other rocket science.
Just one small piece that worked for me like a charm, and I can tell you it will work for you as well. When you're having this discussion, try to do it if possible. Go for a walk, have a tea break, go for a coffee, have it outside the office. It has a phenomenal effect. If you do it within the office, you don't open up.
Okay. One more thing. You need to be prepared on the topic. You have to have the numbers within. You do the homework first. Don't go without homework, please.
Yeah,
do the homework.
Right. Even though it is in the coffee table, we have to do our homework. Right? Thank you so much. With that, I thank you. Thanks every one of the panelists. Thank you, Zaki sir. Thank you, Sarjil. Thanks, Raisul. We really had a great discussion today. I thank you for your time. So
thank
over
you.
to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting us. It was a good session.
Thank you
so
for
much.
giving this.
Pleasure to be here.
Also learned a lot.
Have a great day. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.